Deputy Prime Minister responds to teachers' pay concerns. Kina Bank confident of country's sovereign bond issuing. And more questions surfacing about Chuuk crash.
This is the National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Thursday's news. Deputy Prime Minister Charles Sable has responded to teachers' pay concerns, saying teachers should be able to see how much they earn on a payslip. He says Education Department needs to resolve the matter quickly so that payslips are easily accessible. We have been following this story very closely, and an increasing number of teachers all over the country have reported pay cuts and difficulties in getting their payslips.
After more than a week of complaints raised by teachers all over the country, the Deputy Prime Minister responded to the concerns. He has since sought explanations from the Departments of Finance and Education over the cuts to teachers' salaries.
So I've simply asked both those agencies just to quickly look into the queries and to make sure that we are paying the teachers what we should be paying them and address it as quickly as possible.
So what they have seen on page 20 is the normal salary. They revert back to the normal pay.
But Charles Sable continued to echo the statement by the Education Minister yesterday that lump sum payments had been made and that teachers were now receiving, quote, normal pay.
So it will be the normal pay plus 3%.
But an increasing number of teachers, especially in Moresby, have come forward saying normal pay for them last fortnight averaged between 0 and 45 kina. The pay cuts have been burdensome for rural teachers who've had to travel to Ley to find out why they were underpaid. Apart from the pay cuts, the teachers are also being burdened by additional costs when obtaining their pay slips.
Is that it's a legitimate concern that teachers and all public servants should have access to a pay slip. They should be able to see how their fortnightly pay is calculated and arrived at. And I think that's a very important point that Department of Education needs to address quickly.
The PNG Teachers Association, the national union that represents teachers, has remained largely silent on the nationwide pay cut. Teachers still have not been given a clear explanation as to why the cuts have been made to their salaries. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Ley.
A teacher and single mother of 5 is struggling to make ends meet for her family this week after being paid only 7 kina last fortnight. Shamila Pisep said this is the first time she received this amount in her teaching career. She fears having to deal with another pay cut next week, saying it has already placed financial burdens on her family.
Shamila Pisep is a teacher at the Makam Road Primary School in Ley. She has been teaching for 31 years and is a single mother of 5. Last fortnight, she only got 7 kina in her pay.
It has not gone down well. It really affected me as a single parent, and I don't know what to do next. I have water bills to pay, power, food on the table, and I have children who are out going to school, and I need to send them money every payday. Unfortunately, I can't do it now, and my children are suffering too.
The past week has been a struggle for Mrs. Pisep to provide for her family with the amount she has been paid.
In a place like this in Ley, no, I don't have any place to do another extra place where I can grow veggies or something else to eat. Like it is like my pay is like my garden. I go there to get it to eat.
Mrs. Pisep is one of more than 100 teachers in Ley who have seen cuts in their pay for the last 3 fortnights. This week, we spoke to teachers from various schools in the city. They said between 100 to 200 kina was cut from their pay with no explanation.
And that is not good at all. I think the government should do something about that. We need some explanations on why our pays are cut.
In her career as a teacher, Mrs. Pisep says this is the first time she's been paid 7 kina.
Like it's taken away a week, 2 weeks food. That 7 kina has become my burden to me, taking away the rights to my children to eat from the table too, and their necessities in the house as well.
She fears having nothing for her family if she gets another pay cut. Lucy Kopana, National MTV News, Lae.
Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited paid its final installment dividend to the national government for the year 2018. In a small ceremony today at the Treasury Office in Port Moresby, the payment was announced by KPHL Chairman Sir Moy Ave, Managing Director Wapu Sonk and Deputy Prime Minister and Treasurer Charles Sable.
KPHL manages state equity in various projects in the country, the primary project being the PNG LNG project. So far with this payment, KPHL has paid 300 million as required by the national government for this year.
So far we paid 150 earlier in this year and 50 million in terms of the earthquake relief, which the board considered as a part of a dividend. And today we give you 100 million as the final dividend from Kumul Petroleum Kumul Holdings.
Deputy Prime Minister Charles Sable said the payments were being made to government in US dollars that can be used in the market later on by the central bank for foreign exchange.
One important aspect I just highlight here is that money is being paid to our government, into our banking system in the form of US dollars and pays it into the Waigani public account. So we receive it as Kina, but the dollars are available for the central bank to use in the market.
The government is collecting revenue for the 2019 budget, and so far the main areas of collection, like in the tax collection, is going well.
And those primary revenue heads, of course, are starting off with the taxation that comes from the Internal Revenue Commission, and of course the customs, our customs authority brings in the primary revenue in the form of taxation. But then we've got very important non-taxation revenue, and the bigger portion of that, of course, is the dividends that we are budgeted for.
Some state-owned entities have paid dividends to the national government, but others are yet to deliver. The government expects 1.2 billion in dividend payments to beef up the budget.
We also have some dividends budgeted from National Fishing Authority. There's a balance there, about 120 million kina. And then you've got people like National Gaming Board. MBIL has already paid their dividend, and then of course Kumul Consolidated Holdings. We'll see how we go with that one. And Octedi is going to be giving us the balance of their dividend as well. So we should be able to meet up that the balance of those outstanding. But a total of about 1.25 billion is in dividends in the 2018 budget.
Fidelis Sukina, National MTV News.
Kina Bank is confident with Papua New Guinea's foray into the sovereign bond market, calling it a successful debut. The homegrown bank views it as a positive development as it demonstrates the country's attractiveness from an onshore debt provider point of view. Leanne Jarari reports.
The recent announcement of the issuance of sovereign bonds by Treasurer Charles Sable has many in the private sector optimistic about the much-needed injection of 500 million kina into the economy. Investment bankers Citigroup and Credit Suisse were joint lead managers and book runners for the deal, which garnered significant interest, with some reports stating demand was at $3.3 billion, mostly from the US. Nasdaq reported that the bond has a 10-year maturity and will carry a yield of 8.375%. Kina Bank released a statement thereafter, stating that the bond may relieve pressure on the PNG Kina in the short term.
Kina, we believe it was a very positive development. It showed that the international community is quite confident about the outlook for PNG and the economy, particularly when you see how much the bond was oversubscribed. There was very strong interest across particularly the US, but in other financial centres as well. The pricing was quite tight as well. So, you know, those are all very positive signals coming from the international community about PNG.
With that said, however, the bank sees the outlook for the PNG Kina as continuing its current rate of depreciation against the US dollars, given the underlying supply and demand situation in the market is largely unchanged. According to the bank, the long-term prognosis, which looks more favorable, is linked to the commodity price cycle and initiation of PNG-based commodity resource projects.
The private sector is taking this quite positively as well. The country is in need of US dollar reserves at the moment. We all understand the situation around the foreign currency market. The private sector is looking very closely to see how the central bank will use this boost in the foreign reserves to help clear the backlog of import orders in the market. So overall, I think optimistic in terms of how those dollars might feed into the market over the coming months.
Leanne Gerari, National EMTV News.
Still to come in the news, more questions on the Air Guinea crash, correctional services to investigate the escape of a prisoner, and greater autonomy for East New Britain. Details after the break. Welcome back. Enga Province has been selected to host the 11th Policewomen Conference in 2020. PNG National Policewomen Coordinator Senior Sergeant Marianne Yabara recently visited the host province to identify a good venue. Sergeant Yabara was pleased that Enga people are friendly despite reports of high violence rate in the province.
The 11th Policewomen Conference is expected to be bigger and better. Since it will be hosted in Enga Province, most members in the Highlands and Momase will participate. Policewomen have already received support from their male counterparts, and Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipotas to rise up and show their strength in policing roles in the country. Enga Provincial Police Commander Joseph Tondop told the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary Women's Advisory Network to show leadership at their rank and file to go to the management level. During such conference, police women discussed issues for working in a male-dominated field, empowerment and advancement of women in RPNGC. The conference is hosted to support network to foster professional development for police women, advocate for equal opportunities, advocate for increased representation at leadership and management level in RPNGC, identify issues affecting police women, and seek solutions. They will also provide timely advice to the Police Commissioner on matters affecting police women, develop and engage with other Pacific Island Police Women's Advisory Network member countries. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
East New Britain Province is confident of restoring the public services to its glory days after being granted greater autonomy. Chairman of a newly appointed autonomy committee, Chief Sinai Brown, says the province was once a role model province guided by a provincial constitution. But since 1995, a change to the organic law on provincial and local level government weakened and rendered its local constitution useless.
The call for an autonomy to restore the past has just got louder in East New Britain Province. 3 months ago, the PNG government finally agreed to the province's request for autonomy, something that took several decades to achieve. Autonomy means the provincial government will have control over most of its internal affairs, including political structures, financial arrangements and administration.
We in this committee will help the governor and his government to restore those lost opportunities.
The launch came 12 months after the ruling PNG party formed the government, and one of its agenda was to decentralize powers to selected provinces.
National governments cannot be everywhere. Likewise, provincial governments cannot be everywhere. Districts cannot be at the ward level continuously. That is why decentralization of responsibilities and services to layers of government is very, very important for the success of our country.
East New Britain Province has one of the oldest government systems in the country. Its roots go back to the early 1800s during the German colonial rule. The natives who were able to attend the colonial schools were educated and have become largely aware of the issues affecting their lives inflicted by the colonizers. Over the years, frustrations accumulated until 1969, when the educated natives bound together and formed the Mataungan Association, an anti-colonial movement which one of their main agendas was to set themselves free from the white rulers. Until 1995, following numerous reforms, the province was introduced to the national and local level governments. Many have seen the second and third tier of government as a catalyst introduced to quell secession movements, and it took down what the province have already achieved prior to the government reforms.
We had a Village Code Act, we had a Land Act, we had many other laws. But the new organic law came, all those laws were thrown out. So we have to restart.
Public confidence in the government service delivery in the province has dipped in recent years. Education standard has dropped immensely. Health services continue to ail, and road infrastructures have deteriorated beyond repair. The launching of the autonomy 2 days ago was an apparent gesture of reconciliation and is expected to rebuild and restore those lost confidence. While the government appears to have said yes to autonomy, the move is set to in motion debate over the process which was followed. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
The Independent Consumer and Competition Commission has issued a license to Makam Valley Biomass Limited to generate electricity to the electorate in Moresby Province. This is the first time the Commission has issued the license to a renewable energy company to generate electricity.
The ICCC advised the issuance of an electricity generation license to Makam Valley Biomass Limited to generate and supply power. According to Commissioner Paulus Ein, MVBL has complied to all the licensing requirements under the Electricity Industry Act and other industry legislations and regulations.
The ICCC has now successfully issued a generation license to Makam Valley Biomass Limited. The license is for the generation of electricity to PNG Power. We understand Makam Valley Biomass as a PPA with PNG Power, power purchase agreement with PNG Power, and that has also come to the ICCC for approval. We have approved this, and we are very thankful that Makam Valley has gone through successfully the process required under Section 24 of the ICCC or Electricity Industry Act. That requires a stringent process that allows any player to come into this market.
The Makam Valley Biomass Limited is a subsidiary of Oil Search Limited and has a power purchase agreement with PNG Power Limited to generate 15 megawatts of power from biomass in Makam Valley, Moresby Province, supplying to PNG Power through its Ramu grid. The construction phase will take place during a 33-month period, and the company will begin supplying electricity to PNG Power in 2021.
We've been working very closely with Financiers, so ADB and IFC are standing behind this project, and we thank them for that. We've been working with PNG Power with where we're going to connect and the grid compliance, which is part of the generation license. We've got a full environmental permit for both the plantations, and of course we've been going through the land program working. It's all uncustomary land. So we've been working with the Department of Lands, the landowners, forming their ILGs, surveying the land, as well as planting the plantations.
Leanne Jarari, National EMTV News.
The Israel PNG 9 Mile Farm is the first commercial farm in the country to get a hazard analysis and critical control points certificate. Innovative Agro Industries Executive Director Ilan Wise received the certificate today from the National Institute of Standards and Industrial Technology. Mr. Wise said the certificate is the farm's effort of aligning with the newly launched MTDP3, which calls for world-class agricultural sector in PNG.
IAI Executive Director Ian Weiss said in order to produce a world-class agricultural sector in the country, agricultural industries need to comply and conform to world-class standards. He said Papua New Guinean agricultural products must not be perceived to be second or third in terms of standards. Some benefits of the certification are that the 9 Mile Agro Farm will provide yields producers to the cruise ships during the APEC Leaders Summit. It took the farmer a year to receive the certificate. Mr. Wei said this achievement sets the benchmark for farms throughout the country.
We need to make sure that we provide food, whether it's vegetables, dairy products, poultry products, or others, that ensure that our consumers are safe in consuming them. It is crucial for us as we set ourselves around the world and for the domestic market as food producers, and agriculture at the end of the day is food production, that we comply with these standards.
Hepa Certification is an international standard defining the requirements of effective control of food safety. It is built around 7 principles: conduct hazard analysis of food hazard, determine critical points, establish control limits and systems to monitor control of critical points. Also, the establishment of corrective actions, procedure for Hepa system verification and documentation are also critical for Hepa certification.
The company is certified to operate a food safety system which complies with the requirements of PNG-CS, HACCP criteria 2015, and the Codex HACCP 2003 recommended international code of practice. What's important here is that your clients are guaranteed that your food is safe, your food is healthy, and it's good for the body.
The process for getting a Hepa certification is lengthy. However, in a nutshell, interested clients are required to send an application to NICIT and procedures will continue from there. The Hepa certification is valid for 3 years, and during that time there will be a process of maintenance of certification where the clients will be subjected to surveillance audits. When the 3 years is up, clients are welcome to reapply for the certification. Charlene Airy, National EMTV News.
The first ever draft of the Papua New Guinea Biannual Update Report 1 on greenhouse gas inventories was presented today in Port Moresby. It is an updated report under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Processes for developing countries in reporting on efforts or actions in addressing climate change and its impact within all sectors. It refers to greenhouse gas emissions, mitigation actions and their effects, and the support needed and received during the process.
The Biannual Update Report is a requirement under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The report presented today will be discussed and reviewed by stakeholders to see if changes are needed to be made before it is being published. Climate Change Development Authority Managing Director Ruel Yamuna says it will be a roadmap to Papua New Guinea's climate resilience development agenda and the support needed.
Today and tomorrow we'll see the review and discussion of the different data from the different sectors, how it fits into the greenhouse gas inventory, and how we can come up with a streamlined approach to finalize the different information.
Yamuna said, according to the Paris Agreement, developing countries meeting their commitments should present a biannual update report.
After the Paris Agreement adoption in 2015, we are now implementing the different commitments, and that will require a whole of stakeholder approach, which is what the BOR entails, how we can work with the sectors to take the necessary steps to cut our emissions so that we can move towards that climate resilient.
Dr. Hitofumi Abe from the Food and Agriculture Organization, who was also there, shared the same thought.
Papua New Guinea has a lot of forests, big forests, but the current some rules for the REDD+ is not favor to a country like Papua New Guinea. So now PNG has a very strong information which can help country to negotiate with the other countries and at the international meetings to how the country can achieve the sustainable development.
The leader of the Japan International Cooperation Agency project on greenhouse gas inventories in PNG, Takeshi Inoki, says there are 5 sectors in the greenhouse gas inventory.
First is energy. The second is industrial processes. Third is agriculture. Fourth is land use change and forestry. This is the forests. And fifth, waste. So the project, the JICA project, does cover all sectors.
Inoki says the scope of their project includes all 5 sectors. Once emission reductions are done, 2050 is expected to be carbon-free. Michelle Stephen, National, EMTV News.
EMTV News today spoke with a survivor from the Air Niugini Chuuk crash. Bill Janes, a journalist at Kasalahele Press, the Federated States of Micronesia's only newspaper, says Air Niugini hasn't contacted him since the incident. He says the company's silence raises many more questions about the flight, as he admitted he was unable to find a life jacket under his seat and under the next 3 seats. Adelaide Curry reports.
Bill Janes has flown to Chuuk several times on other airlines. This is the first time Janes had decided to fly with Air Niugini.
First experience wasn't all that great, huh? I've been to Chuuk probably 30 times in the 18 years that I've lived in Pohnpei. No problems before.
Janes, an American who is based in Pohnpei for the last 18 years as the only journalist working at the only newspaper in FSM, says the weather was clear as he recounts what transpired.
One passenger says that there was some kind of announcement saying to brace for landing, and if that was the warning, then that would have not been sufficient for me, but I didn't hear that announcement. I was in the back of the plane. I don't know what that means. All I know is that we were awfully low, and I thought to myself that every time we're that low, we're usually on the runway. And then all of a sudden we were landing, which I thought was awfully, excessively hard to land on a runway. And I looked over and there was a hole in the plane on the other side.
And as always, when you land on water, the first thing you would reach for is the life jacket. Janes says there were no life jackets under his seat, and the next 3 seats he checked.
After we did land and I saw water coming in, I looked for my life preserver and did not find it under the seat as it was supposed to be, and I checked in 3 more seats on my way out and did not find it, and so I went out the door with no life preserver.
He also said the flight attendant attending to his section of the aircraft panicked, screamed, and even pushed the passengers.
The crew in the front of the plane acted, they were calm, but in my section of the plane, they were panicked, yelling, running, pushing.
While Janes has repeatedly said he was glad to be alive, his work equipment, 2 cameras, 4 lenses and other work equipment is now at the bottom of Chuuk Lagoon with the aircraft. Janes says he is yet to hear from Air Niugini. Air Niugini is aware of these claims and have said to respond in a media statement. Adelaide Curry, National, EMTV News.
And now to another story on the teachers' pay cards. Education Secretary Dr. Uke Kombra said the department manages the teachers' payrolls using the ELESCO system, and their functions are authorized by the Finance Department and their technical team. So far, 104 teachers in 5 schools in Leh District and over 200 teachers in Mount Hagen have reported pay deductions.
The Education Secretary said some cases could be isolated. He has asked teachers throughout the country whose pays were cut to report their cases to the Education Division, Teachers Service Commission or to his office.
So that we will together look at how these teachers' pays have been cut. Because as far as our system is concerned, the way we process the teachers' pay, there is no specific instruction or direction for any teacher's pay to be cut.
Since Monday this week, 104 teachers in 5 schools in Leh District, including a technical secondary school, reported pay deductions. 33 teachers from Omili Primary School reported that 200 kina each was removed from the salaries for the last 2 fortnights.
If you expect quality education for quality citizen, then put the money where your tongue is.
One of the teachers didn't receive any pay at all, while another had only 10 kina in their account after the deductions.
Teachers, the amount of commitment that they will put in to their work will be not to that expectation of us.
On Tuesday, all 27 teachers from Milford Haven Primary School reported pay deductions. At Unville Primary School, 19 teachers reported pay cuts of almost 4,000 kina in total. Teachers from Markham Road Primary School in Ley also reported that they received 7 kina each.
I only received 7 kina, and my 200 kina after all the deductions have gone, and I don't know where it has gone to.
I'd like to ask you too to get those teachers' names and pass it on to me.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Ley.
You're watching National EMTV News stories making headlines overseas. When we come back, stay with us. Welcome back to the news. An administrative investigation is being carried out by the Correctional Services on why a remanded inmate escaped from custody at the Port Moresby General Hospital when he was supposedly there for medical checkup. Correctional Services has yet to establish why the prisoner was there at the hospital and who aided his escape.
Tommy Baker Maeva of Rabaraba in Milne Bay and Karaita in Gulf Province was arrested for armed robbery, murder and piracy in July and was being remanded at the Bomana Correctional Service Institute. He escaped from the Port Moresby General Hospital between 2 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. yesterday. Acting Commissioner Stephen Pokanis says they are yet to find out why the remanded prisoner was at hospital in the first place to receive medical attention. From reports, the escapee had been escorted by 2 correctional service officers, but investigations will reveal whether other officers were involved in him going to the hospital and later escaping.
Tommy has a history in the underworld, especially in Milne Bay Province, also in Oro Province, here in National Capital District, and I would think possibly Moresby Province as well. As of yesterday, the report that I heard from the commanding officer from Bomana, he went out for the usual medical checkup at the hospital, and that was the place where he escaped.
Acting Commissioner Pokanis said prisoners escaping from custody reflected badly on the institute and its officers, and the officers should be severely disciplined. Assistant Commissioner Operations Dennis Piambi added that disciplinary actions against officers who are found guilty of aiding in the remandee's escape would be disciplined.
Normally there will be notices, or maybe you will be suspended, and then serious charges, minor charges, or like that. It's indicated by the gravity of the offense itself. Yeah.
Pokanis said escapes from the country's prisons are also not supposed to happen, with officers on full pay and expected to work for their full 8-hour shifts.
So I don't see any excuse to allow any escape. And I can bluntly put it this way. The career of a correctional officer depends so much on how good he or she supervise and making sure that that particular detainee or number of detainees in their care do not escape. Our career hinges so much on that.
Piambi said despite some of the prison facilities deteriorating, officers had to do their best. Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, more than 1,400 people are known to have been killed. Now the Indonesian government set Friday as the deadline for finding anyone else alive.
Even now, 5 days after the earthquake, the tsunamis and the mudslides, the damage wrought on this part of Indonesia still has the power to shock. Some buildings were literally swallowed by mud. It was the mud that did for Petobo, a neighbourhood to the east of the city. Fields of rice shaken loose by the earthquake that poured down the hillside. It buried the mother and baby sister of Fiona, not yet 2 years old, who was pulled from the mud by her older brother. She's being cared for by her aunt.
She often asks, "Where's my mum? Where has my mother gone?" I tell her we're still looking for her. If she hears a loud noise or a plane going overhead, she's scared. She's still traumatized.
Over here, it was even worse. A road and all the houses along it, obliterated by mud. Astonishingly, this cornfield has travelled more than a mile. And this mad jumble of wreckage is the remains of at least 2 villages. They scarcely know where to begin recovering the bodies of the victims. This was a Christian study centre. There were 200 students there when it was torn from its foundations. Just try to imagine the terrible force that uprooted these front pillars of the church and toppled them over, and that flattened this massive concrete roof here. And even now, they don't know how many victims may still be underneath. And all of this was dragged by the mudslide from right over there, behind those palm trees. The collective loss suffered by the people of this city is incalculable. Help is on the way now. It will be needed for a very long time.
Hundreds of Nigerian women have been trafficked into Paris as sex workers, lured by the promise of a new life, only to find themselves trapped in a cycle of abuse and exploitation. The young women are often found in and around of the city's wooded parts, and police are having a tough time stopping it.
A nighttime exchange in Paris's largest park, the Bois de Vincennes. With just a nod, a prostitute is led into the bushes. In France, it is buying sex rather than selling it that is illegal. But the police say that most of the women who work here are slaves. Nadej, not her real name, used to be one of them.
If you go to Vincennes, you ask questions, 90% are slaves. 90%.
Parisian police agree. For every woman dancing freely here, they say, 9 are not. By day, the park is a beautiful spot, popular with dog walkers and bull players. By night, it becomes a place where men can buy sex for very little. The police believe that 150 slaves work in this park. Like the others, Nadej was in the hands of a network to which she gave all of her earnings. And like the others, she took an oath before leaving Nigeria, binding her to a madam through juju, a traditional West African belief system.
Imagine you taking an oath, you lie down inside a casket, a coffin, which means if you break the rules, you're going to come back to this coffin. It's so powerful.
So powerful that during the ceremony, the women are physically branded with scars that identify them back in Nigeria as cursed women. In 2017, the UN International Organization for Migration said that there had been a nearly 600% increase in potential sex trafficking victims arriving in Europe through Italy since 2014. 80% of them were Nigerian. Our cameraman wore a hidden device to get a sense of how these conversations take place and where the women come from.
I'm from Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria. Why is 30 euro? 20 euro.
20 euro.
20 euro. How old am I? You told me, how old am I?
Local charities say that the women who walk these streets are getting younger and that their apparent freedom is an illusion.
They have no access to their documents. They've lost their identity, they've lost their age, and they have no freeness. The only freeness they have is to go to prostitute and to give back money.
It is so shocking to see these women lined up on the streets of this park. We asked Parisian police how this could be allowed to continue. They said there simply isn't very much they can do. The women are afraid to talk to them because of the networks, and they say they're moved around Europe very often. And then, explain the police, there is the problem that there is an apparently never-ending supply of Nigerian women desperate to come to Europe.
Une fois qu'on a démantelé un réseau, au mieux, ne sera qu'un effet de 24 heures. Parce que derrière, on crée un appel d'air, on crée le vide pour qu'un autre réseau s'installe.
A slave amongst so many others in this park.
Chuuk Sports is next. Don't go away.
Chuuk Sports.
Welcome to Chuuk Sports. The men's and women's Australian Prime Minister's 13 team arrived in Port Moresby today. Among the teams were some big-name NRL players in the likes of Aaron Woods, David Clemmer, Tyson Frizzell and captain Daly Cherry Evans.
The Australians made their way out to a welcome from the Central Sing Sing group. The players quietly made their way to the team bus and were escorted out of the airport. From the airport, a media conference was held at the Stanley Hotel, where coaches and captains from all 4 teams attended. This is Australian men's captain Daly Cherry Evans' first time to Papua New Guinea. Cherry Evans says he's thrilled to be in the country to help spread the word of violence against women through rugby league.
It would be silly for me to look ahead of what's coming this weekend, and that's a very good PNG side. We performed well earlier in the season in the game at the World Cup last year, so I'll take it one game at a time, and this weekend is very important for the people that are involved in the games in the coming weeks to prepare well, to go out there and to play some good football and practice some good habits, and it's not going to come easy this weekend, so I'm looking forward to the challenge ahead.
Men's coach Mal Meninga says though many members in the team are junior Kangaroo players, they are sure to put up an impressive performance led by the experience of players like Ben Hunt, Tyson Frizzell, Cherry Evans, Aaron Woods and David Clemmer.
Because they haven't played for a while, it's an ideal situation to bring the calibre of David Clemmer and Aaron Woods and bring Campbell Killard and Jordan McLean and Tyson Frizzell, so they're very important members of the Kangaroo squad to give them participate this week, which is, they really enjoy that. Everyone loves the experience of coming to Papua New Guinea.
The Australian women's team have had great success since the 2017 Rugby League World Cup. Women's coach Brett Donald says it's always a joy to visit and play in Papua New Guinea. He says they've been preparing well and have brought a much younger side to this year's PM's 13.
Come up here last year and see some of the great work that people like Alan Tung and the people that work for the NRL do here in Papua New Guinea is fantastic. There's a bunch of programs running around and great messages around inclusiveness, education and equality. I think it just shows that the game, the 80-minute game is much more than that.
And what the preparation is and what you need to be doing at a level. Lots of the girls are extremely young, and to be able to come over and play an international trial versus kids, it's a great honour. You get to pull on that green and gold jersey, and for me to be able to captain that team, it's an extreme honour. But the game's come a long way, and there's a lot of hard work that's been put in behind the scenes.
Both teams will be visiting different schools and communities tomorrow in the nation's capital. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Melbourne Storm's Justin Olam arrived in the country on Tuesday to join the PNG men's PM's 13 team. Olam says he's excited to be back in the country and is preparing well for the match on Saturday. SB Hunter's tackling machine Bradley Brower is also eager to take the field this weekend, having made his debut in the national colours earlier this year at the Pacific Test.
It's been good. I had a year away from family and everyone. Pacific Test brought the boys together, but it's good to come back with the boys to the camp. It's always fun. The boys, we get around and play footy, but not just that. During the week we have fun, with each other, and that's the thing I'm looking forward to. The camp's been good so far.
Honestly, a big thanks to the Lord, and then to my family and friends, and to those who are, my height and size. You got to believe, because if you believe, you can accomplish anything in life. Pretty happy, and then for me, it's like a dream come true, as always. And with the boys and everyone that are so open, and it feels like, even though it's my second game, but it feels like, with the boys opening and stuff, it feels good, really good.
We'll take a breather now, but Chuuk Sports will continue when we come back.
Chuuk Sports.
Welcome back to Chuuk Sports. Teams participating in the Hepa Shield women's competition were announced today by Cricket PNG at Amini Park. The tournament will feature the best female cricketers in PNG in a T20 format. 39 players have been selected and have been put in 3 teams: CPNG Easts, CPNG Souths and CPNG Wests. These teams will be captained by current PNG Lowers players Tanya Ruma, Ravini Oa and Kaya Arua. The tournament will run for 4 days and will start on Monday, the 22nd of October. He's been the linchpin of the All Blacks midfield in recent years, but Ryan Crotty's place could be under serious threat with rising star Jack Goodhue named at centre for Sunday's test against South Africa for the first time since the June series against France.
Jack Goodhue has been arguably the form centre this year. Now he can prove it on the biggest stage.
Pretty impressive. All year we've been trying to work out what's our best combination in that area for the future, and this is an opportunity to do that.
His Crusaders partner Ryan Crotty will come off the bench with Anton Leonard-Brown given a rest.
We know a lot about Brian and Jack, but we don't know a lot about Sonny and Jack.
There's plenty Steve Hansen likes about 23-year-old Goodhue.
This will be a straight run in for Jack Goodhue.
His plays really mature and he's a traditional centre, I think. He's got the ability to put other people into space. He's a good reader on defence, got a bit of gas as well.
Elsewhere, Captain Kieran Reid, veteran prop Owen Franks and Aaron Smith all return to the starting 15.
I think it was a pretty straightforward team to pick, really.
This team faces a similar challenge to the one that arrived in Dublin in 2016, needing to prove a point after their loss in Chicago. That day they physically imposed themselves and got a good win. Hansen would prefer to compare the lessons they've learned since Wellington to the 2007 World Cup quarter-final exit.
Gets the pass back in field, try.
07, we all the stats looked pretty and looked great, but we didn't get the result, and it was because we got individualistic and hammered it away at something that wasn't going to work.
So expect Kieran Reid to make sure his team plays the percentages if needed on Sunday.
If we need to take a drop goal, I'm pretty confident we'll take one, yeah.
The lessons are learnt, now the All Blacks have to apply them.
And that ends Chuuk Sports. The weather details for the next 24 hours when we come back.
Chuuk Sports. Chuuk Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast in the southern region: fine, although cloudy in Port Moresby, cloudy in Daru, Kerema, Alotau and Popondetta. In the Momasa region, a shower or two in Lae and Medang, some showers in Wau, fine weather in Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, a shower or two in Lorengau, thundery showers in Kavieng, Kokopo Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, cloudy all throughout the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Thursday, the 4th of October 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV news team around the country, pleasant viewing for the rest of the evening and good night.